Hi everyone, welcome once again to the lectures of the Self-Knowledge course. This is the 24th lecture of the 25 that make up the Phase B, or second part, of this Self-Knowledge course. This lecture is entitled The Practice of the Cross and What the Cross Symbolizes. This topic is quite interesting since it will allow us not only to reveal the meaning of this millenary symbol, but also to know that there are three types of crosses that define the initiation work, and to know the meaning of each one of them. The cross is a universal symbol. It has really existed in all cultures and in all times. It is not a properly Christian symbol, as many believe, since it has existed for thousands of years before the Christian era. The cross itself is the symbol of sexual union. We see that the cross is made up of two pieces of wood: a vertical piece of wood that represents the masculine phallus, the active or positive force, the generating element, and a horizontal wood that represents the feminine yoni, the passive or negative force, the receptive element, or in which something is created or disintegrated. This allows us to see that when these two forces intersect, a third force is generated, which is a power. That is a power that can create and in ourselves can create the existential bodies of the being. And that is also a power that can be focused on destruction, and inside us can be used for the destruction of everything that is impure. However, we will see that there are three crosses which we will have to take along this path towards self-realization. The first of these is the cross of life. This cross is symbolized by two crossed beams. This cross symbolizes the forge of the Cyclops, the sex work, because there the initiate must temper himself 3 times. First, by creating his solar bodies in the first mountain, then the bodies of gold in the second mountain, and later the bodies of light in the third mountain. With this cross, we create our internal bodies one by one, vertebra by vertebra, wisely using our creative sexual energy. This practice is of a mystical type. It requires a lot of concentration, imagination, and will in the work we are doing. In this practice, we should not beg for death, but only concentrate and focus the energy on the creation of the bodies. If we ask for death during this practice, we would be mixing the mystical forces with the revolutionary ones, and a third force would result that will affect us and stagnate at work. This practice is going to be the priority in the first mountain, which is the mountain of Genesis, or creation through the waters. Therefore, most of the sex practices on the first mountain are focused on birth. Death-focused sex practices will be done occasionally to eliminate big defects already studied, or when our being internally sends us to carry some defect to death on the cross. There are 3 basic requirements for this practice. It must always be presided over by love, fidelity, and chastity. This practice will be carried out with a stable partner of the opposite sex. It should not be a union made for mere personal convenience or in which there are continuous feelings of hatred or resentment. Both should be seeking to develop mutual respect and the development of love. In this practice, chastity must always exist. That is, sexual energy will never be lost. The key is the phallus-uterus connection without ejaculation of the sacred sperm. For the practice of the cross of life, or the cross of birth, the first thing we must do is the conjuration of the belilin and the magic circle that we learned in Lecture 7 of Phase A. This point is very important since the suprasexual practice is a high magic practice in which, as we can see, 2 forces are joining together to manage a very powerful energy to make a superior creation. If we don't close ourselves correctly to do this practice, we will be an easy target for negative entities and black magicians who will seek to make us fall to feed on this energy. So it is essential to always do the belilin and the magic circle. Then we make a plea for assistance to our inner Father and our Divine Mother to assist us to have a good concentration, imagination, and will in the practice. Then we proceed to light the fire with kisses and caresses. And once there is a good erection in the man and a correct lubrication in the woman, we proceed to the connection of the lingam in the yoni. There the cross will be formed. Then we proceed to the transmutation of sexual energy through a respiratory process accompanied by imagination. For the regeneration of the first 2 bodies, the physical and the vital, we are going to do the process with the base clef, which consists of bringing the energy to the point between the eyebrows. So what we will do is that once sexually connected, we inhale the air, slowly and lengthily through the nose, imagining that this air reaches the lungs and from there goes down to the sexual gonads, testicles in men, ovaries in women. At that point, we retain the air. While we retain it, we imagine how the sexual energy goes from the gonads to the coccyx and then ascends throughout the spine like a golden thread that ascends vertebra by vertebra until it reaches the point between the eyebrows. Once there, we exhale the air by pronouncing the following sound, slowly and elongated. Then you repeat the breathing and imaginative process, and when you reach the point of exhaling the second time, you will do it with the sound. Then you repeat the procedure again, and the third time exhale with the sound. We repeat this process as many times as necessary until all the sexual energy is transmuted. If at any point of the practice the sexual potency drops, that is, the man loses some of his erection or the woman loses her lubrication, they proceed to make gentle movements to recover the potency and return to the energy ascent process. This practice will be extended as long as the couple wishes or until even making soft movements, kisses, and caresses, the potency is no longer recovered because all the sexual energy has already been transmuted. The success of the practice is always in withdrawing from the practice without spilling the sexual energy. When we have already concluded the second initiation of major mysteries and begin with the creation of the solar astral body, then we are going to carry out the process of transmuting the energy with the treble clef. That is, we will not carry the energy only to the point between the eyebrows, but from there we will make it descend to the heart, coiling it there. Since both, the astral, mental, and causal bodies, are not going to be regenerated but created, since we barely have an embryo of them. And just as when the fetus is formed in the mother's womb, the first thing that is formed is the heart, and from there the rest of the body, likewise with the creation of the internal bodies. For this we are going to take the energy to the heart. Once sexually connected, we are going to inhale slowly and lengthily. Hopefully each process, inhalation, retention, and exhalation, can be extended to 20 seconds each. After the air is brought to the sexual gonads, the air is retained, and we imagine the energy going to the coccyx and ascending in the form of a golden thread through the entire spine, reaching the point between the eyebrows. From there, descending to the heart. At that point, you exhale with the same sounds that we already explained in the base clef. In the same way, success will be in withdrawing without ever spilling the energy, neither inside nor outside the practice. And well, that is the first cross, the cross of life. The second cross is the cross of death. In this cross, we see an initiate dying during the practice of sex. As I explained, sexual power can be used to create or to destroy, to be born or to die. Above the head of the initiate, we see the letters INRI, which is the acronym for Ignis, Natura, Renovator, Integrum, which means fire incessantly renews nature. This cross shows us an initiate dedicated to psychological death. In these moments of infinite happiness during the sexual work, the initiate concentrated on his divine mother, asking for her forgiveness, repentant of his mistakes, begs her to eliminate the defects that he has already understood, and there apply the creative fire for their total disintegration. This practice is of a revolutionary type. It requires a lot of concentration, imagination, and will in the work we are doing. To do this practice, it is required to have made a previous study of the defect that is going to be taken to the cross. With this practice, the initiate gradually eliminates the ego detail by detail in order to be able to resurrect. This practice is going to be a priority in the work of the second mountain. Since, through this practice, the Christ will disintegrate all the infrahuman elements that live within us. However, on the first mountain, we will use this practice sporadically to bring out major defects, those defects of which we have already made a good prior study, and those that our inner being in the astral plane asks us to burn in the fire or take to the cross. The preparation for the practice of death on the cross is similar to that of the cross of birth. Conjuration of the Belilin and the magic circle, begging for assistance, lighting the fire with conscious kisses and caresses to obtain a good erection in the man, lubrication in the woman. Then lingam yoni connection. Slowly and lengthily, inhale the air, imagining that it reaches the sexual gonads. Hold the air, imagining the energy, but now as a flame of fire, ascending along the entire spinal column until reaching the eyebrows. Once you reach that point, concentrate on the detail of the defect you wish to eliminate. Ask the Divine Mother for its disintegration. Then, release the fire against that defect at the moment you exhale the air, chanting the following mantra slowly and lengthily. The same process is repeated as many times as necessary, and using the same mantra, the fire is discharged on the different details that we have understood about that defect that we have carried to death on the cross. If sexual potency is partially lost, it is recovered with soft movements, kisses, and caresses. The success of the practice will be to withdraw from it without spilling sexual energy. That is the second cross, the cross of death. The third cross is the cross of love. This is the cross of Golgotha. It is symbolized by the cross of St. Andrew. That is a cross forming an X because it is the cross that the initiate is carrying and that the disciple helps him carry. This cross is the symbol of the sacrifice for humanity. It represents the work that we do for mankind, and it has a great relationship with the work of the third mountain, since it is the mountain of sacrifice for humanity. On the third mountain is where the master must have a disciple who has already taken the direct path to leave him in charge of the world teaching so that he can enter the absolute. This cross, the cross of sacrifice, at the beginning is light to carry, and as we advance in the inner work it becomes very heavy. At first, as a sacrifice, what we do is attend the lectures, study, and reflect on them. This in itself represents a sacrifice, because it implies taking time from the personality and its pleasures for the sake of seeking our own awakening. Later, we invite people to receive this knowledge, and we start preparing ourselves to directly teach the knowledge. As we advance internally, we are committing ourselves to the work of our own being, and the weight of that cross is increasing, because each time we are taking more time from the personality and dedicating it to inner work, but also to fulfill the commitments that we are making to bring knowledge to others in the clearest and simplest way possible. So, then we are taking on more responsibilities by starting to prepare those who want to become instructors, by doing international missions, taking knowledge to other countries or to other languages. And so, the cross becomes very heavy. But it is a cross that is carried with happiness, because it's carried with love. All the consciousness that we release with psychological death must be taken to put it at the service of humanity. Likewise, all the forces and powers that we awaken in the birth process must be used to serve humanity, since love develops there, as love is shown in deeds. And well, that was lecture number 24. That is the symbolism behind the 3 crosses related to the esoteric work. In the next conference, which is the last conference of the Self-Knowledge course, we will learn how to differentiate a white magic temple from a black magic one. This will be very useful for our internal investigations. Thank you for attending this conference. Please remember to leave us any questions you may have. Until next time.